The group Kiss were in Stockholm recently, and sitting in front of me here in Stockholm is which member of the group Kiss?
Oh, that's terrible. That's bad. You tell me who is the member.
Mr. Paul Stanley.
Very good. Paul Stanley here.
And what does Paul do in the group?
I play guitar and sing, write a lot of material.
Yes. In fact, I read that this is the first time on the latest LP, Unmasked, that you're playing lead guitar.
Well, I played some lead guitar on Dynasty or Dynasty, whichever the country calls it. It's amazing. It gets called different things. But this was the first album where I played pretty much half of the solos were mine. So it was quite a lot of fun.
So why haven't you played so much lead guitar before then? Why is it such a new thing?
I was still learning. You're always learning. Hopefully, no matter what you do in your life, you're always learning. You always get better at it. So, as a musician, I didn't feel comfortable enough until now.
Is that the reason then why your music seems to be developing what I would term in a softer direction? Your music isn't of an aggressive kind in the same way, is it, that it was for some years ago anyway?
Well, interesting enough, that was due quite a bit to the fact that we were working with a producer on the last two albums, and the direction seemed to be more poppy. But the next album will find us producing it, as opposed to Vinnie Poncia. We produce our own album, and it'll be a much, much heavier album. It'll be much closer to the old Kiss. Very, very rock and roll, very heavy. And we are writing all the material, producing it ourselves, and basically doing it all ourselves.
But you don't regret this time working together with Vinnie Poncia?
No, because you always learn. You learn something from everything you do. And although we feel much better working on our own at this point, we have no regrets. It's just that sometimes when you work with somebody, a producer, you find that your music becomes interpreted by him, and it loses part of the essence of what it is. So we felt it would be best to do it ourselves and make it sound like the Kiss everybody knows.
So there are no hard feelings between the group Kiss and Vinnie Poncia anyway?
Vinnie's one of my best friends. Yeah.
And you're based in New York still?
Still, we all live in New York. We all consider New York home. Although we may do some traveling, we still consider New York home.
And this visit to Sweden, is it the beginning of the European tour now?
It's almost the end. We'll be back in New York City on October 17th. We'll be back in New York. So we have approximately 4 more shows to go.
And you've done a lot of touring in your time, which I think has been a great strain, hasn't it?
Well, it's certainly work, you know. It's certainly time-consuming, and there's a lot of traveling involved, but we love doing it. But there's no denying it's quite a bit of work.
Do you enjoy being in Sweden and working in Sweden?
Yes, I find this country very pretty. I find the architecture beautiful. I find the people very attractive. I find the women very good-looking. Good food. It sounds like a good place to me.
Simmons wrote the song She's a European,
Right.
which is taken from the LP Unmasked as well. And I read that he wrote that to the woman that he was perhaps looking forward to meeting in Europe. Do you know if he's met her and if she came up to his expectations?
I wouldn't know, but I would imagine he's meeting as many as he can.
Even in Sweden?
Especially in Sweden.
How did the name Kiss come about?
Well, we needed a name. When you're in a group, you always ultimately you get down to, well, what are we going to call ourselves? Kiss was the kind of name. Kiss was the kind of name that everybody understood, even outside of America. It's a universal kind of word. It means romantic. It also means heavy, like a kiss of, kiss kiss of death, a romantic kiss, it's an identifiable kind of word, so it just seemed like a good name.
Do you know what it means in Swedish?
No.
Urine.
Really? That's interesting because, very interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how about the idea with a lot of makeup and looking so gruesome and aggressive and so on? How did all that come about?
I don't know if it's gruesome or aggressive. I think it's energetic, a lot of fun. That came from just something that we wanted to be dynamic. We wanted to express something that came from inside of us. So that's how that came about.
A lot of people have the impression of Kiss as being a very hard, unfriendly, controversial group. Would you agree with that? And are you happy with that kind of impression in that case?
We're hard and unfriendly to people that are unfriendly and silly, stupid. The people that we like, we're very friendly to. People we don't like, we have no use for.
I don't like to talk about politics too much, but how's the American election going to go? Who's going to win?
I don't like to talk about politics either. That makes two of us.
Okay. In case you felt
it at the
inspired
moment.
or something, yes. This is your 16th album. Don't you find that it's very difficult to always find new, exciting material, new ideas? I mean, when you produce 16 albums, that's an awful lot. You don't find that you're standing still in any way, or that sometimes you feel things are a bit static, or that it's difficult anyway to say, find new, exciting material?
I think that's why you change in terms of. You may change in terms of direction slightly. You do solo albums like we did. We had a song like I Was Made for Love, and you change a little, to keep from stagnating. But ultimately you wind up in the same place. You do what you're most comfortable with. We're a heavy metal band. The next album will be very heavy metal.
Is your music in any way a protest against anything or a reaction to anything? Or is it just the way you feel?
It's just us having a good time. That's what rock and roll should be. People having a good time.
I think that's a very good way to close the interview. Paul Stanley from Kiss, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Take it whenever you feel,
I think you should go 1-1. You should go for a lower level. 1-1-1-1. 1-1-1-1. 1-1-1-1. I gotta do an ID. 1-1. Okay. How you doing? This is Paul Stanley of Kiss, and you're listening to Radio SBC Rock and Roll. That's all right. I got 4 more to go. How you doing? This is Paul Stanley of Kiss. You're listening to Radio SUS Rock and Roll. This is Paul Stanley of Kiss. You're listening to LSF 88 Radio Rock. How you doing? This is Paul Stanley of Kiss, and you're listening to Disco 91, and it ain't just disco. How you doing? This is Paul Stanley of Kiss with Stuart Ward on FMAK Rock and Roll Radio. Okay?
Great.
Great.